I want to start just by thanking our county executive for being here. Got to thank my wife and kids, again, for all they've had to endure over these many months. I told somebody this morning, I was humbled this morning. You know, my kids, they went to school late because we had a late night last night. And my youngest, Carter, you know, I said, I got to get ready for this press conference. I got to get a suit ready. He goes, yeah, before you do that, make sure my lunch is packed. So it reminded me of, it continues to humble me. And, you know, the inspirational quote, every morning I get an inspirational quote, and the one that popped up today was about humility. And that reminded me that all of us that are in elected office, remind us that we should be humble. And I would urge any candidate that won last night to remain humble, and all of our elected officials to be the same way. While the public put us in office, we must remind ourselves that our service is a privilege. Our service is the ultimate sign of privilege, and they expect us to be able to deliver. They expect us to be able to cooperate, and that's why I have the county executive here with us today. The other thing that I'm asking folks for is their grace and their patience. We have been very methodical over these last 5 months. We assessed every single city department. Our ready teams went in and looked at every department. I probably have pages and pages of ideas and observations that people saw when we looked at various departments. And we did that first because we wanted to first think about what structure that we wanted, and then we wanted to think about what individuals could be able to move that mission forward. I want to share the vision and values of the Evans administration, and then I'm going to turn it over to our county executive, and then we'll take your questions. I think it's important for people to know what will the Evans administration stand for. And I will tell you that the things that I'm going to lay out here will be on every place setting where our senior management team meets, and it will be something that we will ask all employees to embrace, and something that we will continue to assess with the community. Anytime we do anything, we're going to be able to point back to that value, to the values of the Evans administration. Our vision is that we are going to be building the bridge to Rochester's future. Building the bridge to Rochester's future. And our mission, the Evans administration will promote positive systemic and structural change by providing transparent and collaborative leadership, offering equitable access to essential municipal services, enabling productive intergovernmental, private, and nonprofit partnerships, and promoting increased quality of life through investments that create vibrant neighborhoods and employment opportunities, making Rochester a hope-filled city with an exciting future. And hope-filled city with an exciting future. Now our values. We will be strategic. An Evans administration will be intentional, creative, and bold, yet realistic given the city's fiscal, physical, and people resources. So we're going to be realistic. Now I would love to have an NBA team here. We're not going to get an NBA team, right? But maybe we can get a G League. I don't know. But we're going to be realistic, right? But also very strategic, but bold. Youth to work, that's bold, right? So we're going to be bold. Increasing home ownership, that's bold. But we're going to understand that we have to be living within the structure that we have. We will be renewable and flexible. We will allow for and accommodate future modifications and possible change. If it's somebody else's idea, guess what? That's fine, because if it's a good idea, we'll take it. And if it's an idea of something that's not working, we're going to scrap it and then explain to the community why we're scrapping it. That's part of our transparency piece. So it's important that we be renewable and flexible. We're going to have concern for public employees. We will develop, support, empower, and care for our employees, and thereby create a citywide team of engaged professional public servants. We want to be known as a great place to work for the city of Rochester. We think that if the employees feel great about coming to work every day, that is going to translate into great citizen services. So we have over 3,000, I think 3,500 employees. We want to make sure that those employees are going to be proud to work for the city of Rochester, and that they feel as though they are valued, and that they will then take that value and let it translate to the broader community in the work that they do. And then we're going to look at the larger context. We are not on an island. The administration will take into account the larger external environment, including the county and the greater Rochester region. Rochester is at the center of that. But we have to have a strong county, and we have to have a strong region in order for Rochester to thrive, and we won't just look at ourselves as just an island of isolation. We will look at the larger context. And then we're going to be collaborative. We're going to promote and encourage collaborative partnerships within the administration as well as other public, private, and not-for-profit entities, where egos and turf are checked at the door. Remember what I started with, humility. We don't have time for egos and turf with the issues that we're dealing with. I stand before you. Last night, a 15-year-old kid was shot and killed. Yesterday, we had an issue in one of the outer ring suburbs of a car being stolen and almost a home invasion. Those things are going to take collaboration. No time for ego, no time for turf. County and city, we got to be joined at the hip. And I will tell you that I believe that the collaboration between the county and city will be like the Moore and Ryan partnership, but probably even taking that to the next level. And I've had the opportunity to serve with Lou Moore on the Monroe County Fair and Recreation Association back in the day when I was just a kid. Citizen priority. The administration will place a primary focus on being citizen-centered by engaging, enabling, and involving citizens as partners. You know, I use my Clint Eastwood analogy all the time. What is it, High Plains Drifter? Yeah. My favorite movie. Clint Eastwood goes in there, and you know, he gets those citizens ready. And then he looks at them and say, see you later, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? But they are so empowered that they are able to go and transform that city because they then feel as though they have the power to do it. And government can help create those conditions, and that's what we're going to do. We want to have the most engaged citizens that Rochester has seen. And why that is so important is because our challenges are so immense. So we're going to do that. And then the last two, mission focused. We understand that our primary role of providing high-quality planning, we know the stuff, zoning, code enforcement, public safety, clean water, physical infrastructure, light, roads, forestry, et cetera, and other critical municipal services. It's important that we have individuals that understand that that is the primary role and that we do that well. That is what I call blocking and tackling, and we want to make sure that people understand that. And then the last one, you guys can probably guess it because I ran on it, trust and transparency. And Evans' administration will ensure that the people of Rochester will trust that their collective interest and not personal or special interest are primary. This isn't me. This is the community. It's we. I am but a vessel for the taxpayers for whatever period of time that they will have me there. And we're going to remind anyone that works in this administration that that is what they need to understand. And all these things that are outlined here are all things that people that come into the administration want to buy into. I just want to add one more thing before I turn it over to the county executive. I know that people are going to have questions on personnel. You can start to expect personnel announcements by the beginning of December as we continue to vet folks. And one of the things that's important for me is that I'm telling folks that I want them to understand that they have a duty and obligation if I call on them to come serve the city. I always say the county executive, he built such a great team. Don't worry, I won't steal him. He built such a great team. You have to have a great team around you, but those individuals, for example, at the county and at the city, they understand they could be doing anything in the world, some of these people. Most of these people, they could be doing anything in the world, but they decided to say, you know what, public service is so important that for that short period of time, or for that long period of time, I'm going to come serve my city. I'm going to come serve my county. So we're going to be calling on people who may be in the private sector, who may be in the not-for-profit sector to say, come join in Evans' administration. But not come join in Evans' administration, but come join an administration that is working on behalf of the citizens of Rochester. And we want to be able to be doing that, so those things will be coming. I am very excited about the relationship that we will have with the county executive. Adam is a collaborator, and if you look at his leadership during COVID, being elected, taking office in 2020, and within 3 months, Mr. County Executive, COVID hits like a ton of bricks. His leadership was unbelievable, and I saw it firsthand because I would log onto these county calls that he was putting together. I think they were 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes more. And he took charge of COVID and really worked to put Monroe County on the right path. And I am so proud and honored to have him as a partner. I'm already going to be asking him for stuff. We're going to lunch after this. Right after this, we're going over to Dinosaur for lunch. And I got a list of stuff for him in my pocket. I'm sure he may have some stuff for me. But we got to do this. We got to be collaborating, and we've been talking since the primary. I also want to thank, before I turn it over to the county executive, I want to thank the mayor and her team. They have been great in terms of cooperating with my team on items. Mayor Warren as well as Deputy Mayor Smith. They've been great in terms of working with us and making sure that we have a smooth transition. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our distinguished county executive, the Honorable Adam Bello.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, Mayor-elect. And really, thank you, Malik. Congratulations on your huge victory yesterday. What a day yesterday was for the city of Rochester and Monroe County. You know, people all over the city and the county, they voted for a government that works together. And Mayor-elect Evans, he ran his campaign on building bridges, and it's significant that on the day after his election, he's already working on that collaboration and unity, and I could not be more proud to stand with him here today. You know, as Malik said, we've already talked a number of times before Tuesday, and right after this event today, we're actually heading out to lunch together. And he's also made it clear, and he just did to you, this is a working lunch. And so I have my list as well. But Malik is not just hitting the ground running, he's sprinting. Malik is the right person at the right time for our city and our community. We face significant challenges, and we both know that people want results. Last night, this community sent a message, I think, here and also across the country. They want government to work. They want people to work together. And this demonstration here today is a new collaboration and a new era of working together. And I do want to address a little bit about what happened last night around Monroe County as well. I think last night was significant for this county because voters across the county voted to end the veto-proof majority in the county legislature. And as it stands now, we also are poised to pick up a seat in Irondequoit with the president of the county legislature's seat. Why? Because they're tired of petty partisan bickering. People in this community are tired of politics, and they're tired of being focused on power and not people. The voters want elected officials to work together to get the job done. There are several races that are too close to call, and we could very well end up winning a new majority in the county legislature for the first time in over 30 years. But the message that was sent is clear. For those obstructing progress, for those unwilling to work together on improving the lives of all of our residents, those folks need to go. And we need new leadership who are going to work together to solve our challenges. Challenges like recovering from the COVID-driven economic downturn, violence and crime, the opioid epidemic that's ravaging families in every corner of this county, opportunity for a better quality of life for everyone that calls the city of Rochester and Monroe County home. These are some of our challenges, and leaders like Malik Evans know no government entity can do it all on their own. We have to work together. Malik and I believe that by working together, we can ensure a more equitable and enhanced quality of life for all of our residents. But that work has to begin now. Malik, you have a strong partner just up the block on Fitzhugh Street, and we are stronger when we're together. 37 years ago, a Republican county executive, Lucian Morin, and a Democratic city mayor, Tom Ryan, they came together for the now famous Morin-Ryan plan. That plan stabilized the city of Rochester and has kept the city's finances on solid ground ever since. Morin-Ryan was a recognition, though, most importantly, that the county and city have a shared future. We need to rely on each other. Collaboration and good government is what this community wants, and it's what this community needs. So I want to thank Malik for reaching out on the day right after his election, for being willing to roll up his sleeves to get to work on that collaboration and building a unified approach to solving all of these many challenges that are facing our community, because we can't do it alone. We can only do it together. So thank you, Malik. Congratulations, and wish you all the best, and look forward to working with you, and we'll take some questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I appreciate that. And it's all about collaboration. And, you know, we start with the county today. We've talked to city council members, delegation. Got a call from Senator Gillibrand on the way here today. So we are all about that collaboration. So we'll take some questions. Who wants to have the first one? Oh, I knew. Big support. Patty Singer, ladies and gentlemen. I knew it was Patty. Go ahead, Patty.
County executive talked about big things that happened in the county last night. You addressed it with the violence in the county, and that's where I thought you were going with that. So at 9 o'clock when the polls close, the 15-year-old is dead at Rochester General. You referenced the carjacking. How important, priorities above everything else, is figuring out what is going on with violence throughout this county? Because to me, as a resident of this county, can't do anything if people are afraid to go on the street.
Number one priority. And remember, whenever I talk about this, and you guys know because you stood here all the time, the first thing I wrote out was that youth opportunity agenda. And then when I talked about economic development, remember what I say: violence or economic development and public safety go together like love and marriage, like a horse and carriage. So that is the number one priority to address. People need to be able to feel safe in their community, but we also need to make sure that we address the gun violence, which is out of control. We know we've had hundreds of shootings in the city, and we are closing in on 70 homicides. So it is absolutely critical. It's something that we have to get a handle on. You have to have collaborations across the county, across the city, across the state, across the country. And you see that this violence isn't just isolated to Rochester. The earlier incident before the 15-year-old was shot and killed, there was the issue in Gates. So we have to work together on it, but it just can't be idle chatter or talk about it. We have to sit down and collaborate in order to make it happen. We don't need a million forms in order to talk about it. We need to zero in on it and make sure that we take care of it.
Is there a plan yet, or is that going to be something that's
I think it's something that we will continue to develop, but I think that some of the things that we rolled out, you covered it, was our youth opportunity agenda. Remember what we said there, Patty? We said that if young people are given the opportunities, they are less likely to get involved in violence. Think about if a young person had so much to do that they wouldn't think about picking up that gun or doing whatever it is that they're doing as it relates to violence. And you're seeing this in the schools, right? The violence is infiltrating there. So when we look at this, we're looking at this not just in isolation. We're looking at it as collectivity. What programs need to take place? What role does law enforcement play? What role does mental health play? And again, that's something that we can work with the county on as it relates to the mental health piece. So there's a lot of opportunity to look at this from a holistic perspective. But our triage moment is taking care of the bloodshed that's happening and put a stop to it immediately, period, because it's unacceptable. And the other thing that's unacceptable is that, and I mentioned this the other day, we have to see outrage within our community. And when Manuel Rivera, 16 years old, was shot and killed innocently, you guys covered it for a little bit, but then after that, you didn't hear much about it. And that sticks with me to this day. I keep bringing it up. My staff is probably so used to me bringing it up. So, but where's the outrage? We have to understand that we cannot tolerate that. We should have sustained protests in the street when these folks are being murdered. Next question.
What should they protest when they head into the streets in response to this? Because 29 years ago on election night, there was a 13-year-old who died, and Malik was supposed
That's
to be
right.
able to do the same thing.
Coming from Bible study.
That's right.
Coming from Bible study. I know his family well.
And so people who have heard the kinds of responses you just offered for almost 30 years are going to look to you and say, what will you do differently? You know what you're going to do differently right now. What is it going to be?
Yeah, I think one of the things is that you zero in, and you do it like a scalpel, not a hammer. You identify those. Rochester's not that big, so we can identify the individuals that have a propensity or a proclivity to go on and prevent violence. The issue is how do we zero in on it? A lot of them are in our schools. We know who these individuals are. How do we get ahead of it before it happens? In summer months, when you have these large gatherings, how do you disrupt those before they happen? The Walmart shooting, for example, hundreds of people there shooting. And then I always joke and say, it's like the mob. No one saw anything. Come on. So how do we rebuild those relationships with the police so people feel comfortable enough to come forward? How do you make sure that young people have the opportunities to know that they don't need to be on the streets hanging out, that they could be at a basketball game or at a job training program or be given a job or some type of tool so they won't go towards that violence? And then one of the biggest things that I talked about, and I want to appoint, I don't know if we will keep gun czar or if we will name it something else. My team doesn't like the word czar, but some type of violence prevention program that will disrupt the illegal flow of guns that are coming in here. The proliferation of guns on these streets are absolutely unbelievable. I watched the video of a shootout. And I won't go into all the details of it, but when I saw the firepower that this individual had, I almost fell off my seat. And oh, by the way, the gun had the serial number. They weren't going down to see Jamie Romeo at the county clerk's office and waiting the waiting period. They probably went down to Atlanta or Norfolk, Virginia, and purchased a gun illegally from someone, straw purchase, and then brought it up here to wreak havoc on our streets. So it's a multi-pronged approach. As I tell people, don't look for just one answer from me. You're not going to get just one answer because it's not just one thing. If it was just one thing, we would have solved this violence issue a long time ago. It is multiple things that we have to do. And the last point I'll add on that is mental health. Mental health is a major, major issue. And those of us that are elected officials, we know it. I mean, I got some letters today back there that we got from some folks that obviously have serious mental health issues. That if they aren't dealt with, they probably could do some things that could cause harm to themselves or the larger community. So the mental health piece is also something that we have to make sure that we address. Next question.
Speaking of mental health, Loretta from Live wants you to talk more about your mental health plan.
So I think one of the things that we talked about, and I'm glad the county executive is here, you know, we have a FIT team. We have we also have what we call our PIC team. We have to make sure that we are working in concert and in lockstep with the county as it relates to mental health. There is no reason why we should be operating in isolation, and there are some collaborations that's there. But one of the things me and Adam have already talked about this, is strengthening that relationship with for mental health. But also not just at the municipal level, but how can we also work with the Rochester Psychiatric Center, the hospitals that have mental health areas, and also the providers that provide that. We want to make sure that we do that and have a plan where we can make sure that we improve mental health. And Mr. County Executive, I don't know if you have anything else on mental health.
I do. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well, because really the key, I think, too, when it comes to serving people in mental health, serving people who are also struggling with substance abuse disorder and the opioid epidemic, it's about bringing services to where people live. We have to bring the help to where people need help. And this is why this collaboration is so important. Neither one of us can do this on our own. No government entity can do it all by itself. We have to collaborate. When you're talking about violence that's impacting this community, it's outrageous, the level of people who are facing violence here, and that people don't feel safe in their community. But the city of Rochester and the county of Monroe can't do it alone. They have to do it together. You have to be able to invest in your youth services department. You have to be able to invest in getting people job opportunities, stopping violence before it happens. That's a role the county can play a major role in. You have to have a role for law enforcement to be able to stop this crime and to be able to solve crime as it takes place. That's a good role that the city of Rochester is playing. The recreation departments, the collaboration between those and our youth service departments, they have to be done in concert with each other. When you're talking about mental health, the County Department of Mental Health can't do this without the help of the city of Rochester. And again, all those different ways through their youth advocacy and through their rec centers and with their PIC team that they have, it has to be done together. You can't be working against each other. And so what you're seeing right now is a commitment of a dawn of a new era of working together to get something done for the people who live here, to make a real impact on the people who live here. We can't just talk anymore. It can't just be about talk. This has to be about action. I think that's what people voted for here. I think that's what people are expecting. And we're making a commitment right now here today that this is going to be a collaboration on behalf of this community to help everybody who calls the city of Rochester home and everyone who calls the county of Monroe home.
Thank you. A couple more questions
On your
before we
work,
wrap up. Mr. Brown, and then are you Will Cleveland, the famous guy? All right.
We've met it.
Yeah.
On your working lunch, can we share some of the things you're going to be requesting of each other?
Well, I think we'll talk about homelessness. We'll talk about mental health. We'll talk about economic development. We'll talk about all the broad base of some of the things that we kind of touched on here, and then we'll also probably talk football. Okay. Yeah, go Bills.
The same list as you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can say for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. We have a long agenda to talk about. There's a lot of, like we've been talking about today, a lot of the issues. There's a lot of challenges facing people who live in our community. The issue of crime, the issue of homelessness. We have an economic downturn that this COVID pandemic has brought on our community, people who are in search of jobs. We have employers who are looking to fill jobs. We have infrastructure needs. We have people who are dying every day due to the opioid epidemic. So we have the list is long, but we need to start today. Today's day one. We cannot wait until January. We have to start working today on those plans, on that new collaboration. So that, again, this is all about impact. It's less about talk. It's about how are we impacting people's lives. And that's how we're going to measure our success as well.
So these concepts at this point are broad, not granular.
We're broad, and then they will get granular, because you have to remember, sometimes people have ideas and things like that, and they have like one meeting or one conference and it keeps going. So this will be ongoing dialogue, obviously, between ourselves and our team. So I think I talk to the county executive at least once a week. I'm calling them about something. So, and I'm sure that will increase. Last point, and then you.
Yeah,
yes.
one more
Yep.
thing. Obviously, a lot of talk about crime. Obviously, you have to hire a police chief.
Yep.
among
I knew that question was coming. Go ahead.
among the people you have in mind, have you already have someone in mind on this, or are you going to do a national search?
Oh, we will be doing a national search for police, and I'm hoping council will have some legislation very soon in terms of looking for a search firm to do a national search. Are there people that I like? Absolutely. I have a list of good people that I hear. And can you lure them to Rochester? Maybe. We don't know. But more will be rolled out on that. But we will be doing the national search for a police.
Sorry to jump again,
chief.
but what qualities are you looking for?
They have to be able to have the respect of their men and women in uniform, but just as important, they have to be able to be a collaborator, and they have to be able to have the respect of the individuals that are on the street, so they can be able to walk down Genesee Street and see James Brown hanging out and say, "Hey, James, how's it going? What's going on? What's going on with that?" And then also be able to have the respect of those officers, those police captains, and then be able to establish credibility in the community. And they also have to be fully embrace our Executive Order 203 plan, the governor's executive order that talks about the reform as it relates to the police department. Need to be able to understand that, but more importantly, be able to demonstrate where they have been able to have success, not talk about it. Some people sometimes talk about success. Oh, these are the things I'm going to do. We want to know what they've done to prove that they have demonstrated success in the past.